Why do you even have rules if you don't have a reason for those rules? Let me encourage you today that every rule you have in your kids' ministry, you need to have a reason for. I remember a while back, I was at an amusement park, and I love going to amusement parks where there's rides, and there's fun activities, and there's food, and all the excitement. But I noticed every once in a while, you have this thing called line cutters. People who cut in line, and sometimes they'll send one person ahead that'll hold a spot, and then all of a sudden 7 people join them, and you're like, wait, what happened? All of a sudden you're getting pushed back farther. Or people who just jump in the line altogether. And even though there may be rules posted, often it's not enforced. And I remember one time I was talking to somebody, I was like, hey, why is it okay that you let people cut in line even though the sign doesn't say that? And they go, well, we put that up as a suggestion, but we don't actually enforce it. And I was like, what? Then why do you even have the rule if you're not going to be willing to enforce it? When it comes to your kids' ministry, you need to make sure not that you just have rules and best practices and all of that, but you need to make sure you know why you're doing it so you have a good reason to enforce it. I'm not one of these big rules persons kind of guy. I'm not a do's and don'ts and 10 commandments of the rules in kids' ministry and all of that stuff. I think there is an importance, though, to having best practices, to the things that we say, hey, these are really important so we can have a best practice when it comes to kids' ministry. And I don't want the whole thing to be about you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. But I make sure if we have a rule, we have it for a reason. You see, you have to know the why behind what you do. If you're going to ask the kids to sit in their chair during service, you have to know why you're going to do that. And then you have to enforce it. But it's hard to enforce it if you don't know why you're doing it. So for everything you have, the best practices in your kids' ministry, take time to explore, is this really an important rule? Is this really an important policy? Is this an important best practice that we need to enforce? And if it is, how far do you enforce it? How often do we enforce it? How vital is it? There's 3 things that no matter what, I don't budge on. That would be, we're never alone with a kid in the classroom. We have bathroom policies in place that we abide by. In addition, we have a check-in and check-out process because I want to make sure every kid goes back to the right person every single time. You see, I understand the importance of those 3 things. And although I might not make it a big fuss about whether the kids sit in their chair or not, I'm going to encourage it. But when it comes to those 3 things, I'm going to focus on them every time and enforce those rules. As far as the other things, make sure you know why you're doing it. Make sure there's a reason for it. And then once you have that reason, well, then you need to enforce the rules. Otherwise, it becomes chaotic. People start wondering, why do you even have this? Nobody has ever left an amusement park going, boy, I'm sure glad they didn't enforce the rules today. What a great experience that was. I promise you, no kid's going to leave your church going, you know what? They didn't make me follow the rules. Yay! No, they want to make sure that it's a place where it's safe, where there's consistency, where there's order instead of chaos. There's a reason why we have rules. There's a reason why you need to have them in place. Make sure you know that reason and why you're doing it. Hey, this is Pastor Tony reminding you to keep your kids' ministry fresh.